of the Constitution guarantees every suspect the presumption of being not guilty until there is enough evidence and after the conclusion of the trial. So Honorable Rigathi Gachagua currently is presumed to be innocent, and therefore we strongly feel that the bond terms that have been granted by the court were too high, and we want to urge the courts going forward to ensure that they adhere to the key tenets of bail's applications, which is only to secure the attendance of an accused person. We want to give an assurance to Aslan Nation and also supporters of Deputy President William Ruto. We shall stand with Honorable Rigathi Gachagua. We shall defend his rights in court, and notwithstanding all forms of intimidations, those of us who belong to this current generation, we have a moral duty to continue fighting for justice for those who we believe strongly that they are innocent. I will conclude by saying that for the last 4 days, our colleague Honorable Gachagua has been detained in a police cell. There were other suspects, but it was only Honorable Rigathi Gachagua who was arrested. And of course, that to me is discriminatory, because if when you look at the charge sheet, you see almost about 10 or 9 other suspects, but it was only Rigathi who was arrested and arraigned in court. But notwithstanding that, we give an assurance to supporters of UDA that notwithstanding all these intimidations we are currently undergoing, those of us who are lawyers will strongly continue supporting and standing behind our colleagues who are being taken to court from where we sit in a manner that is contrary to the Constitution and illegal. Thank you.
Okay. Without repeating what Honorable Irungu Kangata has said, the cardinal principle of bail terms is that if an accused person is able to demonstrate to the court that they will attend court as may be ordered by the court, then you can even be released on personal free bond. Jurisdictions that are progressive and respect human rights, like Canada, America, European Union, in fact, allow release of accused persons basically on free board. And a surety could also be just required to give his workplace and personal details. In Kenya, the Constitution, Article 49, is very clear that the right to bail is the right of an accused person, and therefore, as you grant bail terms, the court must be cautious and careful that it does not fall into the temptation and trap of the prosecution and the executive by granting terms that are not accessible to the accused person. And really the threshold and the test should be if it were an ordinary Kenyan that is brought before the court. Therefore, giving 12 million Kenya shillings, I would say that for a person who is a member of parliament, who has a family, a status in terms of working, and available at the call and beck of the court, really that is unreasonable. However, going forward, Kenyans must be alert that courts should not become the next station where human rights are trampled upon. And I would want to wish Mr. Gachagua all the best. Most of us here are his lawyers on record, and we want to work with the court, but we do not want the court to be a captive or under the capture of the state. And therefore, I think that in future we would expect more reasonable application, because you have seen people being held unreasonably long, and even now I believe we would have to find a way of raising that kind of money, because it is not possible to be expected that you raise 12 million to be able to be released in cash, and even in terms of by way of bond, double the amount for that kind of a security. Then, and the figure, the amount that you have been charged with in this particular case and in all other cases, it is targeted to punish. These figures are just being thrown like 7 billion in charge number, count number 5, so that then the accused person is faced with an unreasonable amount for bail. And even the fact that they arrested him on Friday, kept him 3 days in, I think it is all abuse of power and abuse of office.
I think we've seen throughout Honorable Gachagua's arrest, the law has been flaunted. They were in contravention of the Constitution in the manner in which they first arrested him. He was arrested at 3 a.m. on Friday, and this is over cases that he had recorded statements 2 years ago. So there was no urgency to pick him up on a Friday. Obviously, it was intended to ensure that he's punished by being held over the weekend. So that was one way that the Constitution provisions were contravened. Also, the issue of bail has also become a very bad trend, because there should be no relationship with the figures of which you're alleged to be accused of, with the figure that bond bond terms is given. Bond is only supposed to secure attendance in court. It's not supposed to be a punishment for an alleged crime, and that is the challenge that we are having now. And we hope that the judiciary stays away and avoids being abused and used by the executive to punish their perceived enemies.
So, much has been said, but then there is a fear that is, and a wind of fear that is moving around this country on being retributive to accused persons before trial. That you want to punish a person, more than he would have even been punished if he's convicted in the charge. Because looking at the entire thing, that a person is being charged of an alleged economic crime, with a defective charge sheet, which we are going to say in other forms. And then you come out and say, you're supposed to pay 12 million as cash. For us, that one is more of a punishment when you combine it also with a 4-day, being held in custody, isolation and being held in custody. But even as we look at that, we call upon the judiciary, more particularly the lower courts. You need to live by the fact that what you do today will also be affected on you tomorrow. And this we say with a lot of respect. You look at what happened last week on Thursday and Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday, where 2 judges were picked up from the office by the DCI. And I want you to imagine if they were, perhaps they could have been brought before you with trumped up just charges without being, given an opportunity to express themselves as they did, being the officers being ransacked and being driven off to the DCI headquarters and perhaps being brought before you. And then you tell them now you are supposed to pay 15 million, because we imagine that perhaps the effect of this crime could have you behind bars or pay a certain amount of fine in the near future. So we need to look at this element of bail and bond. And this is so clear in Article 49, as I'm saying, that it's actually a right. And this element of hiding, and this we must critique, the element of hiding behind a civil procedure of seeking damages to deny somebody's right of challenging the police bond, the police prosecution, where a police officer holds you from Friday to Monday. Then before a magistrate, when you're raising the issue of fundamental right being infringed, then the magistrate or the court says you need now to seek damages in the civil rights. I mean, really, who has that such time to waste? It's about time that the judiciary lives by the fact that even as you look at the economic element, like you said, the economic element of the economic crimes, you also need to check on the political persecutions. You don't look at only one angle of perhaps public interest and you forget about political persecutions. It is, every person here lives in this country and you know that all these things are trumped out charges of political persecutions targeted at a certain political angle, and the court should live by that fact, because tomorrow Osoro will be accused of having sold this Miramade law courts, which perhaps is on the value of about 30 billion, and they will tell me to raise 500 million as cash bail. We are running insane, trust me. The judiciary should watch on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Having heard from the lawyers, let me say this case actually vindicates what we have all been saying, that the fight against corruption in this country under the regime of President Uhuru Kenyatta will never succeed. The fight against corruption in this country cannot succeed when you use the criminal justice system not to prosecute, but to persecute your perceived political enemies, or those that hold a different political lining from what you hold. And this case actually vindicates that position that we have all held, that we are seeing a series of what are political persecutions, not criminal prosecution of corruption cases. The astronomical figures that you've had in court this morning are nothing other than DCI Kinoti's way of trying to raise bail, high bail terms, as have been said by the lawyers. And I also want to join my colleagues, the lawyers, in asking the courts, just like Honorable Soro has said, that many people will be presented before courts accused of in one way or the other of having misappropriated astronomical figures, trillions, billions, like you've had in the case of Honorable Gachagua, cases of billions. And with time will vindicate Honorable Gachagua when the prosecution in court starts, and he'll be able to prove that this is nothing other than political persecution. And we want to ask DCI Kinoti, the way you are being used, Kinoti, just as has been said, time is coming, and we pray that the same people using you will drop you, and they will use the same things they are using against you, against others, on you. Therefore, DCI Kinoti should also realize that he has close to 12 months now, and maybe less, to be misused. Beyond that, for them to get away with the crimes that they are persecuting Kenyans with,